Welcome back to this Board Game Officer. Today we're going to go through a playthrough of Dante Inferno. This is going to be on Kickstarter soon. It might be on Kickstarter by the time this thing's posted. We'll see. We're going to go through a playthrough. This is from CGS Creative Game Studios. They did Chronicles of Drunagor that has just recently delivered. And so now they are starting this next thing, which that's actually pretty cool. Actually delayed this kickoff until Chronicles of Drunagor Apocalypse was delivered. So I thought that was actually pretty cool of them. So let's go ahead and jump on into this. This is going to be a two-part video because you've got the Chronicle phase and the Confrontation phase. And so I'm going to separate them so it's not like a 3-hour video. So today we're going to do the Chronicle phase. So here we have the board here for set up for the Chronicle phase. Now I do warn you there is going to be a lot of reading because the Chronicle phase is basically the narrative phase, right? So as a quick setup of what the Chronicle phase is actually going to be is we're basically going to be laying out cards. It's going to be telling us what cards we need to lay out and where. And we're basically going to be taking our little guy here, going throughout the circles of hell, right? And this is kind of the narrative, which we'll be dancing around this board, reading from this book. And then we're going to get into some ordeals that we'll have to deal with, which we're going to bring in these decks, which we'll talk about when we get there. So let's go ahead and jump on in, and I'll start reading this, and I'll just kind of explain how stuff works as it goes, because this is pretty simple, straightforward narrative phase here. Prologue, another day in paradise. Our story begins with the image of Dante Alighieri, the Florentine poet, wandering through a springtime field. He has been a resident of paradise for almost 2 centuries now, and life in fullness is complete. The poet makes use of his free time to write the verses of what will be his new masterpiece, the journey of his life from the cradle to the grave, sung in a terza rima. He has spent decades on this task, but his work is about to take a hiatus. Just ahead, Archangel Gabriel awaits. The messenger is brief and apocalyptic. The greatest transgression since original sin has been committed. A brotherhood of knights called the Order has invaded Inferno, motivated to achieve salvation through force. The horrors of the infernal land should be enough to dissuade any mortal from this endeavor. However, these soldiers believe in the sanctity of their leader, gives them their fervor that they need to endure the unbearable. The saints are appalled and fearful of the divine punishment that may follow this sacrilege. They turn to Dante because such an army will need to be prevented by other earthly forces, since Minos, the infernal judge and guardian, has allowed them to enter willingly. What these men are doing will not only change the world, but the destiny of all creation. So as we go here, it tells us to place the region card 001 Dark Forest in position C1 and then inspect it. So we will come here, take that limbo card 1, flip over and put it in the C1 spot. Now this is a tutorial, so we're just going to take it step by step here. Now, whenever it tells us to inspect it, that means we go into this book and find that 001 Dark Forest. When it says inspect it, it means to go to that place in the book and read further until instructed to do something else. So we're instructed to read the Dark Forest. So there you are, 4 strangers lost in a dark forest halfway through your lives. A turmoil of concern revolves in your hearts and minds as you advance through the woods, where everything seems new and dangerous. You barely know who you are, and you have no idea how you got here, but you know you need to move forward. Smelling the fear that spreads like perfume, a symphony of howls, roars, and growls announces the arrival of predators. A panther, a lion, and a wolf jump in the way. Intercepted by the 3 beasts, you have no choice but to face them. However, only one of the champions is able to control their fear and chooses an opponent. Who will be the one who dares to take a step forward? Suddenly, 4 strangers find themselves in this mysterious place, facing an unusual enemy. You know that you are together and that you can trust each other. However, only one of you will take the initiative and define everyone's destiny in this confrontation. As a team, choose one of the options below and proceeds to its resolution. So since I'm playing alone here, obviously it doesn't really matter who's who or who chooses what, because I just get to choose either one. This basically states that this choice does not matter because it's tutorial. It's just showing you how choices work. It's not really meaningful to this decision. So we will go through and pick one. Let's go ahead. I think the outlaw is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and do the wolf, because wolves are pretty cool too. So we will go to 001A. Face the wolf as an outlaw. The outlaw is a cunning man, hardened by the difficult choices he has made in life. He has learned not to start a fight that he cannot win, and therefore he decides to attack the wolf. So thin that she appears to be just skin and bone, the man prepares his bow, takes a deep breath, takes his arm in position, and pulls the arrow. He targets the perfect spot between the predator's eyes, but holds his shot. He remembers a terrible time when he too had been the target. So now the caravan endures an ordeal of aggressiveness, prowess, and willpower of a difficulty of 3. and then success or fail, we'll see what happens. So a difficulty or an ordeal means we're going to take 5 Arcana cards from the deck here. Big shout out to Andreas here. He is the one who made this TTS setup. Super nice and smooth way to play it. It's pretty awesome. Just shout out to you, Andreas. Alright, so an ordeal means that you're going to deal 5 Arcanas. Your goal is you need to hide however many the difficulty is. So the difficulty is 3. That means we need to hide 3 of these. But also because the difficulty is 3, that means you draw 3 Diligence cards and 3 Providence cards. Now what we have to do here, so each Diligence deck and the Providence deck both have a deck full from 3 to 10. So there's only 8 cards in each deck. But why you have separate ones is you have to match up one from each of those decks by adding or subtracting to equal that number in the top right to cover it. So like this 0 here, we could put a 10 minus 10 is 0. Therefore that hides that card. Then we can do a 7 minus 6, which is a 1. But as you can see, we have either a 18, 8, or 6 left. And if we add these two together, we get 13. If we subtract, we get 5. So that means with that combination, that does not work. So we could choose to say, okay, we can't get the 3 because we have to cover 3. We can't get the 3, therefore we just accept that failure and we can go back to the book and fail. Or there's 2 ways to try to do it a little bit better. One, because this was an ordeal of aggressiveness, prowess, and willpower, that means we could spend 1 aggressiveness, willpower, or prowess to help us in this. If it said it was an ordeal of aggressiveness only, that means we could only spend aggressiveness tokens to help us. So what happens, we can spend any of these, they all do the same thing now. We can spend one of any of these right now, and if we spend 1, so we have 2, we flip it over so we only have 1 now, and we would be able to discard any of these cards, any of the Arcana cards. We'll discard them, put it at the bottom of the Arcana deck, and replace those blank spots. So we can kind of get a couple more chances to achieve that. That is option 1. Option 2 is we can offer an Arcana, meaning we take this, instead of putting it at the bottom of the deck, we actually take it for later, and that card's actually going to go into the Malefactor's deck or the boss's deck during the confrontation phase. But if we offer that up, we get to draw 1 more of each of these to continue forward. Now, as you can tell, there's actually 1 less option up here. So if you do this in the opposite order that I just talked about, if you offer 1 up first, you draw 2 more, or 1 of each, and then if you still don't get it, then if you discarded an attribute token, or 1 of these tokens here, if you notice what I said before, you replace any blank spot. So this spot will be replaced if I discard 1 of these tokens. So I could discard just 1, and then 2 will be replaced since there's 2 blank spots. Now, these cards are never set in stone until you say so. So meaning if I drew 2 more cards here, I can reset these if some other combination would help. So let's go ahead and double check to see if we can actually do anything else. So here's what I'm going to do. So I can't, there's no way I can make this work at 3. However, what I'm going to do is I cannot get, with the combination I have right now, there's no way to get an 18. So I'm going to offer up this 18, and I do this because you can look at it, see what it's going to do. And it is going to make, so reading this, I know you guys don't understand yet, but basically this has a chance to do good. I might be able to restore 2, possibly, or I might attack one of my own champions, but we'll see. So I'm going to offer that up. So I'm going to take this and just put it right there for later. Now, because I did that, I get to draw 1 more of these each. Now I will see if I could do something about it. So I still can't get it. I could get that 18 now, but I got rid of the 18. So I'm going to discard a willpower, and I still, with all of this, I cannot make an 8. So I'm going to discard this 8, but this one goes to the bottom of the deck here. And then I'm going to draw 2 more here. So 1 and 2. All right. So now I think I can do it. 10 and 4 minus those, that equals 6. 10 and 6 minus those, and that equals 4. And 8 and 9, and that minus those, and that equals 1. All right. So I had to do both of those. You can do those as much as you want. The problem is these tokens are going to give you extra abilities throughout the confrontation phase. So the more you use these here, the weaker you get. The more you offer up these, the stronger the boss gets, right? That is the trade-off. However, I don't like losing. And I'm like, yeah, I'll worry about it later. So I did both of them, and I wanted to show you guys how they worked. So this just means that we passed. So everything here just gets put back as normal. Nothing really truly happens because we hid certain ones or because we had certain amount of numbers. That doesn't really really matter. It's just basically as fail or succeed. So we put those back, and we'll shuffle them for later whenever we get another ordeal. However, the one that we offered up does not go back. That will be there until the confrontation phase. All right, so let's see. Success. Whether it is the pity, divine providence, or the devil's malice that holds the rebel leader back, he cannot say. However, his hesitation almost costs him his life. Locking eyes with the archer, the wolf reacts and attacks him, but is hit before being able to strike. The wound is inflicted in the ribs, but is enough to give you the breach you need. At a fast pace, you set out to run from the beasts. The caravan takes the Aboli treasure card. So anytime during this phase, the Chronicle phase, that tells you to take any type of card, it will go with you to the Chronicle phase or to the Confrontation phase. So it says that we are taking the Aboli. So we grab the Aboli and we'll just place it over here to be taken with us to the phase. What it says, as a reaction during the Confrontation phase, when a champion is at any range is about to suffer a wound, discard this card to block that wound, and they still take damage as usual. So that will be something we give to one of our champions when we get to that phase, but for now we don't have to do that, we just hold it off to the side. So we took the Aboli treasure card, and now we get to place region card 002 Hill of Virtue, and we will place it in position B1 and inspect it. So we will take this limbo card, put it in B1, Hill of Virtue, and when it says to inspect it, that means we go to this book until we find Hill of Virtue 2, and we go ahead and read it. So you run to the hill, escaping from the remaining beasts that keep chasing after you. Cornered, you take the high ground and turn your backs to each other, forming a defensive circle. Get away, vile creatures! The voice of the fifth person commands, its owner miraculously appearing among the four of you. He is tall with a firm face, a strong nose, and wearing a red robe. On his head, a laurel wreath adorns his cap. Greetings, I am Dante Alighieri, and I will be your guide through the blessed journey that is about to begin. The figure introduces himself as a famous Florentine poet you have already heard of. As if they recognize the authority of that man, the predators return to the forest. Come, follow me. Now that we are together, we shall travel as one. Long is the way, so speed up the pace and listen carefully, for I have a lot to say, and our time is short. So now in the tutorial here, now it tells you to place your token here. This is the caravan. It's a thing of Dante himself. But so that is our caravan, basically just denoting where we are at within this whole Inferno, basically. One thing that I want to point out here, we will be placing cards out here. However, movement is never free in this portion, meaning we are not like a dungeon crawler where we will just move about where we want to go to explore it. It states that this is just a representation of where you are at. Basically, it just helps you immerse yourself within the story and where you are, and so you can see, because these pictures will stack together, so a picture will come through of what's been going on and everything. Place region number 3, Infernal Gates, in position B2. Advance the caravan to it. That's telling us to actually move there, and then inspect it. So we'll take this number 3 to B2, Infernal Gates, and then we'll move our caravan to it, and we will inspect it, which once again, it just means coming to the book and reading that entry. Still confused, you follow the poet down the road that descends into a haze. Very little of the path can be seen, but a gigantic stone gate just ahead. What has taken place here, comrades, is sacrilege. An army of knights has invaded these lands. Who knows why, Dante explains. His stare, however, takes in each of the countless pale and naked figures that pass you by, wandering aimlessly. They do not seem to be dangerous, but your guide is terrified. We must find and confront them before the damage of this audacious assault is irreversible. To that end, our first task is to confer with Minos, who should have stopped them, but did not. The poet concludes as you arrive at your destination. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, is written in flames on the entrance to Inferno, advising you to keep distance from the only place where you must go. Place region 4, Shores of Acarion, in position B3, advance the caravan, and then inspect it. So we will place number 4 on B3, flip it over. We have the Shores of Acarion, I don't know. And we'll advance the caravan to it and inspect it. Crossing the Infernal Gates, you walk to the bank of a calm river where many more of those wanderers return, waist deep in water. Ho! See who awaits on the bank once more. A grey boatman with eyes blazing like embers provokes you. His rowing brings him to you slowly. The one who embarks alive, not dead. This time 4 souls keep him company. For the right price, I shall take you all. He offers the service he does for eternity. Charon, the ferryman, Dante salutes him, but you sense some enmity. Why do these souls return? They return for they have not been damned. Therefore they are free. Now either board or leave. My duty is to lead the souls, not to question the judge's decision. The grumpy ferryman concludes, leaving you with a choice to make. So this is where it's stated in the tutorial that this is the first choice that will actually make a difference in what's happening. So Charon speaks of the toll, but to pay him is not your only option. As a team, choose one of the options below and proceed to the resolution. So we can pay the toll, but we could only do that if the caravan has the Aboli findings card, which we actually do. Or we could take the path of the indolent, or we could threaten their ferryman. So I don't like the idea of threatening the ferryman. I feel like what's kind of going on, threatening is not going to be the thing. And we do have the bully card. So this is my just second time going through this. So I have gone through this once. And so I want to do what I haven't done. Actually, the first time I did threaten the ferryman just because I wanted to see what happens. Not a good thing. But this time we do have the bully findings card. And so I am going to use that. So we're going to do 004A. Pay the toll. Here you are. 1 obbolus for each, except for the poet. The mercenary hands over the coins without even negotiating. We who live by the sword learn to be superstitious at an early age. I've lost count of the lyras I have left with my fallen comrades. There's no more honorable service in all creation, he explains, as Charon reciprocates with a courteously bow. Come aboard. The crossing is fast, but I'm always late. The gray-haired old man hurries. You hardly fit in the small rowboat. As you gently sail through the dark waters of Charon, Dante cannot help but notice the errant souls with his stress. Still, no one questions him. Shortly thereafter, you dock on the other side and continue your journey. The poet's steps are quicker than ever. The caravan discards the Aboli treasure card and takes their Charon Rags treasure card. Ooh. So we will take the Charon's Rags and we will discard the Aboli card. So this one is, as a free action, you may spend this card to receive an expiate one. That's not too bad. Which we'll explain what all that means later on. So we'll just take this and kind of dump it right here, knowing that that's discarded. And now we will go to 007, the castle gates in position B4. Advance the caravan to it and then inspect it. So as you can see, we're actually not there yet. So we will kind of go off for number 7 to B4 to the castle gates. See, as you can see, it's kind of making this little picture here. They do kind of all come together. As you can see, we're kind of skipping through. So that is when our choices are actually making a little bit more of a difference here. So we will advance to castle gates and we will investigate it. Taking the road from the wharf of the banks of Archaron, I should learn how to say that. Archaron, you arrive at the gates of a wall so sturdy that even those Constantinople are not as tall. There are 7 levels to these certain walls which surround Limbo. Dante comments when he notices your amazed stare. Here we follow to the Bailey, home of those who are good in nature, but did not come to know Christ. That is, they were not baptized, he explains. So it means that just living a virtuous life is not enough to be saved? The artist lets out the words that weigh heavily on her. This feels wrong, does it not? She fears she has blasphemed. Yours is a fair question, worry not. His love being the true guide which the spirits of men need. Not even the highest soul would ever find fulfillment far from him, any more than one can quench thirst by drinking wine alone, the poet patiently explains, and place 008, Limbo Bailey, in B5. So now we'll take number 8 and B5, Limbo Bailey. See, you can see that wall kind of connects. So we're getting a whole big picture. It's kind of cool. Keeping the pace, you arrive at a Bailey so wide that it could even be mistaken for a meadow. Here, many buildings can be seen through the mist. In one of them, a Greco-Roman amphitheater. Virgil himself welcomes you. I am afraid Minos has locked himself in his mansion and refuses to receive visitors. The high poet delivers disturbing news when he hears of your venture. The reason for there being so many wanderers' souls is clear, though. The judge is not on duty. He is so resolute that he commissioned none other than Julius Caesar to guard his gate. Virgil, however, has advised. Do not give in, Dante. Remember Saladin. Perhaps he can be of help. Furthermore, some mortals camp to the north. You could have a word with them. He also proves to be a good guide. Finally, you can still head to Minos Manor. The Roman is a diplomat, and you could explain the case to him. Virgil has upsetting news, but he attempts to help. Take the path card numbered 1, 2, and 3, and place them on the region. From now on, whenever the caravan expects the Limbo Bailey as a team, choose one of these cards, take it, and proceed to its resolution. And any time the caravan is instructed to inspect this region, but there are no more path cards left, proceed to resolution 8D. So here we have these 3 path cards here. And it says to come here, so basically we could choose which one we want to go to first. Do we want to visit Saladin and ask him for advice? Investigate that camp to the north? Or we could just ignore that and go straight to the gates of Minos. Let's go visit Saladin. Let's go see if we can get advice from him. So we're going to choose that one. So 008A. The caravan follows the suggestions to seek advice from the Sultan responsible for the victory in the siege of Jerusalem in 1887. So we come here, visit Saladin. Julius Caesar's success in defending the city of Alasia made him a powerful man and an expert in sieges. Few strategists can match him, but if we were to point to someone, Saladin is certainly one of them. The Sultan became famous for his success in the Third Crusade, frustrating the Christians commanded by the one who would become the Lionheart. The Ayyubid was great on the battlefield, but it was his cordiality that built his reputation. Dante praises the ruler who recovered Jerusalem from the Crusaders. Careful, poet! Speaking of the man like that, sharp tongues would even say that you secretly admire him. The outlaw teases, but his tone is that of mockery. Following constrained steps, you move forward. So place region number 10, House of Ayyubid, in position C5. We'll move that and 10 to C5. House of Ayyubid. And we will investigate it. The House of Ayyubid is a palace built to live up to Saladin's reputation. Vaults, tiles, gardens filled with apricot trees, and a fountain from which pours, perhaps the only pure water in the Inferno, decorate the place. To invade the mansion is impossible. There are no men or weapons that could do this, the Sultan concludes as you talk. However, not all victories are achieved on the battlefield. The architect who designed the fortress, Daedalus, lives to the east. He must know its escape tunnels he offers us as a solution. You are satisfied, but your host has something else to say. Wait, it seems that he has provided us with a second path. I saw a patrol of knights to the west just now, but I didn't recognize their coat of arms. Perhaps they are the men you seek. After you meet Saladin, two paths seem to be promising, so the caravan needs to make a decision as the team chooses one of the options below and then proceeds to its resolution. Well, let's go ahead and pursue this night patrol. Let's see what happens there. You take the opportunity to confront the invaders and start looking for them in the surrounding area. Following the trail of smoke, you find the soldiers with their armor relaxed, chattering absently around a campfire, not far from the house of Ayyubid. One of them even holds a wooden desk on his lap, full of papyrus. Tographers, the outlet whispers as you stealthily watch. They are mapping the region. This is not just a raid. They're here to stay. And that is all the mercenary needs to hear to spring into action. And the caravan endures an ordeal of aggressiveness and prowess. So that means we could only use those two tokens if we need to use them. And it is a difficulty 3 again. So we'll come here, we will draw our 5 cards here. There's our 5, and then we'll draw our 3 of each here. All right, and now it is math time. Let's see, what do we need? Wow, all these are really low numbers. 0, 1, 2, 7, 8. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and try this out. So we've got a 7 and a 6. For 7 minus 6 is 1. Then we got a 9 minus 7 is a 2. And we have 3 plus a 4 is a 7. Boom, baby. That was actually awesome. Last time, I don't think that happened at all. The fact that I didn't have to do anything so that was perfect. All right. So we completed that. Once again, nothing, just a pass or fail. So we will reset all of these and we'll put these Arcana cards back there and shuffle them for when we need them again. So let's go to success. Driven by the mercenaries' recklessness, you take advantage of the knight's slackness and jump at them while they are off guard. They try to react, but the fight was decided before it even started. Dante, however, keeps his distance. He does not condone violence, even though he knows that on this journey, he will have to learn to deal with it. As you do not aim to distress the poet any further, you accept victory without chasing the men, making do with the loot they left behind. The caravan takes the Limbo Map Discovery card. Ooh, and that says, Limbo Map. Despite the confusing scribbled lines, you can see that the scout did the best he could. If the caravan discovers a way to better interpret this map in the Chronicle phase, it is possible that a secret will be revealed. Interesting. How do you interpret this map in the Chronicle phase? So that means that something here, because look, if it says, this says, time is short and the caravan needs to take the next step. If the caravan has a bloodstained letter plot card, proceed to its resolution. Otherwise, if there's any path left, so basically go back to Limbo Bailey. If there's any path cards left on Region 8 Limbo Bailey, as a team, you may choose to take one of them and proceed to its resolution. You may choose to take one of them and proceed to resolution 10A. Visit Daldea's workshop instead of advancing to the path indicated by the card you took. Otherwise, if there are no cards left, you may choose not to do so. Oh, interesting. So I could go to Daldea's workshop instead of one of these. So I could say, hey, instead of investigating the camp, I want to go to Daldea's workshop. Or I could just return back to Bailey and go investigate the camp or go to the gate, whatever. That's interesting. Ooh. Well, I definitely want to go to Daldeus' workshop because why wouldn't I? Now the question is, which one don't I want to do? Go to the gates of the Minos' manor. That's kind of what I want to go eventually, right? But investigate the camp might get me more stuff. Meaning, I think I am going to take this card away. So basically, I'm going to come back here, pretend like I'm going there, but path you took. Yep, so I'm going to go to 10A. You accept the first suggestion and head to the workshop. Well, actually, I accepted it secondly. While we are going to Daldeus' house, I have a story to tell, Dante shares along the way. It is said that Poseidon, retaliating for an offense committed by Minos himself, made Pasiphae, his wife, fall in love with a bull. Motivated to fulfill her desire, the woman ordered Daldeus to build a wooden cow for her to wear, and it worked. The poet continues as a playful tutor, laughing more than teaching. The labyrinth beneath the palace of Knossos was built to house the fruit of the sinful union, the monster Minotaur. Even though Daedalus only followed orders, Minos was furious and made the artisan his prisoner. Needless to say, the two have not gotten along since then. Following the rhythm of the witty prose, you soon arrive at the workshop. Place card number 11, the workshop, on C4 here. Oh, that's cool. Okay, look at that. See, that's cool. Seeing that whole like wall coming down, and that river. All right, I like it. Daedalus' workshop. Words, man. I don't know this very well. Sorry, names. And going to number 11 to inspect it. Here, a huge acropolis-shaped warehouses houses materials, tools, and inventions of all kinds. And by the grace of Sarah La Kali, look at this place. The artist is filled with excitement. She knows she is surrounded by treasure. Only in Signor Leonardo's atelier have I seen such geniosity. She dances through the pieces. Wood, copper, racks. Daldeus transforms rudimentary elements into engineering marvels, Dante agrees. However, no invention will ever be comparable to the clockwork wings, responsible for the inventor's pride and pain, a project that he can now perfect for eternity. The poet finishes his explanation, imagining that the man would eventually show. But no one comes, as the place is deserted. It is a true safe in the open. Daedalus is not in the workshop, but his adventures are. Considering the urgency of the task, would he mind if you borrowed a few things? As a team, choose one of the options below and proceed to its resolution. Well, quite honestly, I did the wings last time, so I'm going to do loot the workshop. Daedalus cannot help us, but his belongings may. The outlaw suggests as he studies some of the pieces. He's a practical man, more attached to ends than means. Would you dare take another man's work? The poet questioned him with such a frown that might as well expect lightning to come out of those eyes and strike the rebel leader right there. One does not question the well-born when they take the labor of the poor people who take care of their homes, fields, and mines, so tell me, why should I care? Furthermore, our task seems more important than respect for the possessions of a dead man. He explains himself, but the outcome of the conversation becomes irrelevant. The artist emerges to show smiling the interesting contraptions she has found. Ooh, the caravan takes a heavy crossbow and retractable shield treasure cards. Ooh, that sounds fun. So here we have the retractable shield, right? The images are work in progress, but reaction. When you are about to take damage from the malefactor's action or counterattack, or when you are about to be held, discard this card to block the damage you would take. If you are going to be held, you are not. Ooh, okay, that's cool. And then a heavy crossbow, which is a consumable, actually. I thought it would be a weapon, but it's a consumable, I guess. As a free action, discard this card to make a ranged attack with unlimited range by rolling a 6 dice attack roll. This attack does not consider your weapon's power, range, or special properties. So basically it's like its own thing, but I guess it breaks after the first time, I guess. Kind of interesting, but cool. I like it. Proceed to resolution 11C. You return when you discover that Saladin cannot help you and Daedalus is not in his workshop. The way back seems shorter, however, a bad feeling haunts your hearts for no apparent reason. That's disturbing, says Virgil as soon as you talk again. Few times have I seen the inventor outdoors, and in all of them, it was the fruit of his work, not out of taste. I'm afraid the mortals might be involved, the high poet concludes. It's a pity, Dante, but the suggestions I had to give, I have already given. I need to understand how deep the roots of corruption brought about these men are, before coming to any new conclusion. He apologizes, leaving you at another crossroads. Advance to the caravan to region 8, and then inspect it. So that means we come back to here 8. However, we only have one option now. We are going to investigate the camp. You head north towards the raiders' camp. This time only a few souls cross your path. As strange as it may seem, you are worried about the absence of disarray. I do not understand. That outlaw makes conversation as he chews a straw. camp? Where are the jailers of the Inferno? Why does everyone do what they want? He inquires, intrigued. Your indignation is just, but the truth is that I do not know for sure. Apparently not all those who were convicted to be in this place are capable or willing to react. The very nature of limbo instigates them to apathy, to indifference, or rather that is what I want to believe. Dante attempts to explain, fearing that the real answer is no one cares anymore. Place region 12 in A5. Take 12 and A5. Limbo camp. After a brief walk, you arrive at a place that was described to you. Tents hastily built behind palisades of what dark wood could be found in Limbo. A column of smoke contrasts with the haze that indicates a presence there. Distracted by your inspection of the danger just ahead, you barely notice that one coming from behind. A battalion of soldiers wearing plate armor and an unknown tabard attacks you unceremoniously. The caravan endures an ordeal of aggressiveness and prowess, of difficulty 3. So, aggressiveness and prowess, so we have those two to spend. We'll shuffle this. We have our 5 cards, and let's go ahead and figure this out. So we've got 10 and 6 to make 4. We have 10 and 5 to make 5. However, we can't make a 7, 8, or 12. However, there's nothing else I could do here. So I'm going to offer up the chariot, so I could draw one more of each here. A 7 and a 4. I don't know if that helps much. We got a 9 and a 4 to make a 5. We got a 6 and a 10 still. That's 13. And I still cannot make a sinking 12 or an 8. All right, I don't like losing. So let's go ahead. Let's flip over prowess. Let's go ahead and discard both of these because both of these I can't get to work. So we'll put that at the bottom and we will draw 3 more cards there. All right, let's see what we got here now. So we're going to do a 4 and a 7 to make that 11. Then we're going to do a 10 and a 5 to make that 5. And then we're going to do a 6 and a 10 to make that 4. There you have it. Once again, we had to do both things. Oh, but it worked. It worked. I don't know if it was worth it, but it worked. So we got that success. Once again, we have 2 cards that we're going to have to place into the boss's deck, or the malefactor is what it's called. And so we don't put them back into there. We'll shuffle these if we need them again, and we'll go to the success. However, the attackers misjudged the situation. Even though you are ambushed, your technically superiority prevails. The survivor runs into the mist, thus ending the battle. The victory, however, is little celebrated. Dante urges you to move forward, and only now do you realize his heart must be heavy, judging by his expression. Is this the way? With iron and blood? The artist whispers to him, but the answer does not come. Replace region number 12 Limbo Camp with a fallen garrison number 13. So with a fallen garrison number 13, advance to it and then inspect it, the Limbo Camp. So we'll take 13, we'll place that on top of 12. We are at the fallen garrison. Fallen garrison. Moving forward, you find the settlement lies undefended. You expect another battle, suspicious since last time you were surprised. What you find though is a dozen ill soldiers on improvised stretchers. The ambush was aimed to hide the fact that the undertaking is so costing the invaders. Wait! A man who seems tired, wearing blood-stained garments, comes toward you. Honorable souls, I beg, take what you want, but spare those men. All they have now is their own lives, which are now under my care. He is Hippocrates, patron of medicine. As Dante introduces him, I swore before all the goddesses and gods to use my craft for good. These men are no longer a threat. Your host pleads, but can you trust him? Hippocrates asks for the enemies to be spared, but you do not have to grant his wish. As a team, choose one of the options below and proceeds to its resolution. I kind of want to slay the wounded soldiers, but what's the purpose, right? I'm gonna slay the wounded soldiers. I don't know, sometimes on these videos I like to do what most people don't do, just because it's kind of fun. So people can see what happens when you're not the good guy. So let's go ahead and slay the wounded soldiers. 013B. Hippocrates' devotion is memorable, but you do not want to risk having to meet these men once again. I promise it will be quick and painless. The mercenary takes on the heinous task while the outlaw contains your host. As much as they may receive, many will succumb or be abandoned. The lucky few who survive may leave, or they may ambush us just ahead. The Florentine's frown makes it clear that he disagrees. After all, the task is as important as it is virtuous. What sort of people will you have become at the end if you follow this path? Once this is done, the artist moved, takes a blood-stained leather from the hands of a soldier as a memento shortly after he had held it to his heart. The caravan takes a merciless treasure card and the blood-stained letter discovery card. So here we have the 2 cards. Merciless. Whenever a single attack you make inflicts 2 or more wounds against the same malefactor, that malefactor suffers an additional wound. Oh, and that's a trait, meaning it doesn't go away. That means every time you do 2 wounds, it'll do an extra one. Oh, that is cool. Yeah, I like being merciless. Bloodstained Letter, the moving confession of a dying man. At any time during the Chronicle phase, the caravan can consult 1-1, the Knight's Letter, in the appendix on page 54. Let's keep reading on what happens here first. Thus you leave the company of Hippocrates as you consider your next step. If the caravan has the Limbo Map discovery card, proceed to resolution 013C. Okay. We have the Limbo Map. That's the one we got before. So let's go to 013C. Oh, it's just right here. At first glance, the letter seems like nothing more than a soldier's confession. However, the artist has grown accustomed to reading between the lines and discovers what was said without being said. These are not the last words of a dying man, she approaches the poet, the only one who could understand her. You see, Dante, it is the alphabet of the Slavs, but the words are the ones of my relatives and I use. When he speaks of the lion, he does not mean his wound. He speaks of someone called Lionheart. Her eyes glisten as the plot unravels. Infected by euphoria, the Florentine opens the map and traces a route. If Lionheart is King Richard, the sword that stabbed him is Saladin, which means that in the east, he turns you all, Eureka! The caravan discards the Bloodstained Letter and the Limbo Map discovery card. Place region number 15 in C6. We have 15 in C6 right here. Plato's Cave. Ooh, interesting. Let's go ahead and read this real quick. 1-1 Knight's Letter. These last words I dedicate to you, Mother, even if you will never read them. Since the Lord took you, I promised to abandon addiction and live a life of faith so that we could meet again someday. But the truth is, I failed. The first time I was lost. I feared that the French incursions would bring our family to ruin, but in the end, it was the plague that took you, my father, my wife, and our servants, God rest them, and left our land barren, as the womb of a witch. Being in my 20s, too many were my responsibilities, a decaying property and a broken heart. The only way to ease my pain was to waste the rest of our fortune on mundane pleasures to the last guilder. Certainly, given the moment, I would be among the bodies floating on the Tiber, but that was when I met him. He introduced himself as Lazarus, the one who rose from the dead and now roamed in search of the other men who find themselves as broken as he once was, but longing for salvation. Mother, if only you could hear him preach once, the passion in his words. This man took me in with the love the world had denied me, and thus gave me new purpose. His followers like me were all sinners, but he raised our spirits and promised us a new life, even if we had to pave our way through the flames of the Inferno itself. And he meant his every word. Unfortunately, that's when I fell the second time. My fate was sealed in the east, where the sword stabbed the lion's heart, and now I am left behind. But mourn not for me, as this body is embraced by the dirt, and this letter rots in the grass. My soul will return to this land, this time not as a visitor, but a prisoner, until our order fulfills their divine mission. Then, Mother, we will meet again, for even sinners will have the right to enter paradise. All right, nothing too, just story-wise there. However, let's go to Plato's Cave. Following the clues you found, you arrive at a waterfall shrouded in mist. There, behind the water curtain, you find a cave where a prisoner is sitting, his back to the entrance, Daedalus. The adventurer is startled by your shadow projected on the wall, but the poet soon asks him to turn around. You are friends. The mortals have imprisoned me, for I know the woman who came with them is an impostor, he explains with being released. Justice is blind, Dante says, reflecting on how the judge could have been tricked. If a path to court is what you seek, I can help you. There is a path, deep into the mountain, which leads to the old drunk's cellar. I built it myself and no one else knows it. Daedalus points to a passage in the rock. Their caravan takes imposter exposed discovery card. Daedalus has revealed a terrible secret. The woman posing as Minos' wife, Pasiphae, is an imposter. When the opportunity arises in the confrontation phase, the caravan can try to reason with Minos. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Oh, I did have to discard both of these, Bloodstained Letter and the Limbo Map there. We'll just put those with the other discard there. Now proceed to 015A. Go through the labyrinth to Minos' manor. Guided by Daedalus, you venture through the labyrinthine corridors of stone walls. You follow the subtle chalk stripes you can find from time to time, an instruction that prevents you from getting lost. Sometime later, you emerge in the infernal judge's cellar. Minos' manor is impressive. Dante makes a point of explaining to you that it was not here on his first trip, nor were the other buildings you visited in Limbo. Only the city of Dis had houses and walls. Apparently the damned have received, or allowed themselves to be given, privileges that are not part of the divine order. In fact, it is past time to confront the judge and understand what is happening here, because he has also benefited from this disorder. The Chronicle phase ends here. Carefully follow the instructions provided on page XX of the Book of Commandments to transition between game phases. So this is what it's talking about in the confrontation, or in the Book of Commandments, which is the rule book. Part 2, the transition phase. This gives you just a quick overview of what you will do during transition phase, which we'll get to in the next video. But there you have the Chronicles phase. We've got our cards to make him stronger. We've got cards to make us stronger. We had to get rid of a couple of attribute tokens. We'll see how bad that hurts us, but I'm hoping that will do pretty well, actually. So let's go ahead and talk about now of my thoughts and impressions of this of the Chronicle phase here. So this Chronicle phase is actually really cool. I really like the choice making opportunities here. Like, this is completely different from the first time I went through, because I made sure I chose different ones, and every single discovery card I got this time was different than I got before. Pretty much just about all of the other findings cards I got are completely new, right? So even playing a second time, it's not like, oh, half of it's the same. The story was pretty similar still, but the things that affect the gameplay, the different ordeals, the different cards that I have to take, the Arcana cards here, right? These ones are different, that they're going to affect the Malefactor a little differently. These cards are all different from what I had before, so they're going to make me stronger, different than I was before, right? So I really enjoy the difference that it makes, even going through the second time. And this is just the tutorial, which makes me feel like this is not as branching. I don't know, maybe all of them are branching like this, but in my head, tutorials, the first chapter is usually not as branching. And this is still pretty darn good branching. So that makes me excited. Another thing that I have mixed feelings on is going to be this ordeal. Right, this ordeal here. Oh, one thing I didn't point out, you're supposed to start with 2 of each of these, 2 aggressive, 2 willpower, and 2 prowess. I did forget to state that, my bad. But, right, and then you got these cards. At first, I was kind of worried, because I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound exciting. Just sounds tedious, right? You're just putting cards together to match random numbers, doing a lot of math. I don't know, I am a math guy, I guess, so maybe that's why. But I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would have, quite honestly. It was satisfying. Even having to use a couple of my attributes and having to offer up a couple Arcana cards, we'll see how bad that actually hurts me. But adding that and finally getting it after doing all those, it was very satisfying. So I really did enjoy that. I'll be honest, even in my first play, I did not want to lose, so I've yet to lose an ordeal. So, which is a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. Because at first I was like, what are the chances? What are the chances of me actually being able to do that? But I'm guessing they've done pretty good math, because these cards, right, are 3 to 10 on each deck. And then this one is 0 to 20 in the Arcana deck. There's 21 cards, so 0 to 20. The most I have had to do, just like I did in this playthrough, 1 attribute and offering 1 Arcana. I have 1 every time with just doing 1 of each of those. Meaning, your chances are a lot higher than I thought. I thought the chances were going to be way out there of you're going to have to do so much to even get a chance to it, because it's so random. Given it is pretty random, right? The one time I didn't have to do anything and I got it. The other times, both times I had to do both of them to get it, right? But after you do that and then you do the math and you're like, yes, I did it. Yes. I don't know. It's exciting. More than I thought, at least. I definitely can see a lot of people not liking this, because it is a lot of math. Well, this one can be used for this one, but then this one can be used for this one, and this one. Well, this one can be used for this one and this one. There is a lot of that, so I definitely can see that this is not going to be for everyone. Lots of math, lots of randomness, but I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would, that's for sure. I really did not mind them as much. I thought they were going to be, more of a hindrance, to be like, another one, Kale, just hurry up and get through this because I'm just wasting time doing it, right? It didn't feel that way at first, or it didn't really feel that way, but I don't know, maybe down into 8th, 9th chapter, what are there, 7 rings? 8? 9 rings of hell. But towards the end, maybe it might get a little burdensome, because it's going to be exactly the same every single chapter, every single round. So I hope that there's some difference once you get later down in the road to make this harder, but make you stronger, maybe. I don't know. I don't necessarily want it just harder, but maybe getting you stronger and this harder, so it changes it up a little bit. I'm not really sure exactly what it could be. This is just a tutorial. But one thing I did notice is that a couple of these are the exact same things. Yeah, like this one, Temperance and the Magician. They're the exact same card. I'm hoping that's just because it's an early one. I want them all to be different. The numbers are all different, but I'm hoping that a temperance and the magician aren't going to do the exact same thing. I've seen a handful of them be the same. Once again, I think that is just because the tutorial right before the campaign and everything, hoping that those are a little different. And yeah, I wish I could come up with something to suggest to how to make this more interesting, or just so it's not the same thing over and over and over again each chapter. That's what I'm afraid of. But at least during the first chapter and the second time I've been doing it, I still think it's fun. I still enjoyed it. So it's not too bad yet, but I'm afraid of that. And it's not for everyone. The next thing I want to talk about is this board here. So this board really does look pretty cool as it comes out. Right? You can see that gate following all the way down. You can see that river going between the cards. You can really kind of see this layout. However, you could see that the gray is on the edge of the card. I want that grayness gone, right? If these are going to connect and be, a millimeter apart from each other, I want the picture to be right along with it. Putting that little grayness makes it feel a little less like you're in the middle of it, because you see this big old gray mark in the middle there, where if this is all about immersion, I want it to be as immersive as possible, right? Let's get those cards so they're touching exactly. Let's thin out that space a little bit so cards can actually touch straight up, and you could really have a vivid picture of the entire map of what is going on, rather than you could see that, that's a little, you can see the path goes down and it leads to this, the path goes down and it leads to this, right? That kind of makes sense. But I want this to be a very, very solid picture if this is just about immersion, because that was one thing that I was kind of sad about when doing this. I thought this was going to be like a Tainted Grail, like, ooh, let's explore, let's come up here, see what's up here, let's come down here, see what's down here, where it's not that at all. It's just more of a immersive, and this is so you know where you're at, so you remember where you're reading. It really doesn't do anything for the gameplay. Positive and negatives there. I was hoping it was going to be like that, but it's not. Therefore, once again, I just want this to be more immersive of a picture. Last thing I want to talk about here is the story itself. They did say that they are going to do a kind of a revamp on the story. They're going to get a guide or rewrite, maybe not rewrite what's being written, but really come in and alter it, make it more of a story, because I feel like it starts very, very vague, and I feel like it kind of jumped a few times where I'm like, wait, what's going on? Where are we? Why is this happening? Like, what is going on? Right? There's a few points in that in the story itself that I want to be a little bit more. If you're going to have a whole phase just on narrative, I want it to be very straightforward and like I'm reading a novel, right? I want that connection between everything. It doesn't have to be a deep story, but I want a very straight line of what's happening where and where's everyone going and where stuff is coming from. Especially like the beginning, which is like, and there's 4 people and they don't know where they're at. And I was like, wait. So I had to read it a couple times to realize what was happening. Anyways, I do think that they're revamping the story as well to make it more, which I think they should. It was still good. I still enjoyed the story, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a bad story. But when I have a whole phase focused on narrative, I guess my bar's a little bit higher, I guess. Thinking of Oathsworn or something, that good in-depth story. And with that, this is Board Game Officer. Once I have the other one up, I will have a link to the confrontation phase there, where I will play through that and then talk about it afterwards. And go ahead and click right over here if you want to see some Chronicles of Junagor videos as well. That was also created by CGS, and I will see you later.